If you are, let's say, below 1800, then this is for you. And even if you're below 1000, I think you can really learn a lot from my videos and the games that I try to show at the level that I try to explain them. Greetings, chess friends. Today, we have another hidden gem from the catalog of Paul Morphy, the genius from New Orleans who took American chess by storm, went over to Europe, and proved he was really the best player in the world. Some say the greatest player ever. This might be his greatest game ever, and I have a feeling you haven't seen this one. Now, before we continue, I have to explain. This game is being played by Morphy with white, blindfolded. For those of you not used to this exhibition in chess, one player, usually master level, will have a blindfold on, literally, not looking at the pieces, and another player will be staring at the board, calling out the moves. So you have to just keep this mental picture in your head. Oh, one more thing. Morphy's playing 8 players at once. 8 players simul, all blindfolded. September 27th, 1858, at a cafe in Paris, France. The score was actually 6 wins for Morphy and 2 draws for his opponents. Pretty impressive. 7 out of 8 for the 8-person blindfolded simul. Unbelievable. We also have notes here from Lowenthal, one of the strong players of the day, and he has kind of a poetic touch to him, eloquent, and I like that. So I'm going to read a little of those as we go. Let's take a look. King pawn opening, knight f3, d6, d4, very central. You know Morphy is all about quick development. So what can we learn from these games? In my opinion, probably the most instructional chess games there are, Paul Morphy, for the beginner player. Just develop your pieces quickly. That's the number one priority. Towards the center, making threats, gaining space, gaining time. That's really what Morphy figured out that no one else had prior to him. Okay, critical moment here. If you block with a minor piece, for example, bishop blocks, the queen was under attack, there's going to be some danger. Notice queen can capture this pawn, very, very dangerous. Maybe take the bishop first, engine also giving castles after bishop takes bishop, but this pawn is very in danger, and I assume he didn't want to go that route. f6, very committal move, kind of plugs up the king side a bit. Notice the knight can't escape, and even if the bishop does move, now it's bumping into the pawns again. So very committal, and all Morphy has to do is just retreat. Still, we have 3 well-placed pieces versus black's only 1. And black plays knight h6, also not ideal, but maybe makes a little sense here in light of knight f7, taking advantage of the awkward situation. Knight c3, the most natural developing move. Bishop e7, castles, castles. Okay, let's pause here for the player that is a little newer to chess. Again, that's kind of my target audience. If you are 2450, you probably might enjoy some of the interesting games, but you probably aren't learning anything new. So if you are, let's say, below 1800, then this is for you. And even if you're below 1000, I think you can really learn a lot from my videos and the games that I try to show at the level that I try to explain them. Okay, queen c4. Let's again take an overview. White is castled, black is castled. White has 3 minor pieces and their queen, which is well placed in the center, must say. And black has 3 minor pieces, which are not too well placed, not well coordinated. The knight on the edge. The bishop has no moves. And this bishop, not bad, but again, not doing much. No threat here. Clumsy. So white is certainly a tiny bit better, but let's talk about queen c4. Not only does this get the queen on a nice diagonal, makes check, but it really is targeting one key square, and that is e6. The next moves come with knight d4, jumping into a key square. Why is that even possible? Remember, the move f6 was played, and that kind of sent the game into a strange path. Remember, Morphy completely blindfolded. The players are calling out the moves. He probably didn't say knight d4. Probably Morphy is calling out, while blindfolded, knight to queen 4, the old descriptive notation. And the other player will sit and think, queen to queen 2. And Morphy has to, again, kind of navigate this, keep the positions in his head. Remember, there's 8 games going on. Rook a1. Love the natural developing moves. Use all the pieces. f4. And let's talk here for a moment about what Lowenthal had to say. He said, in recording games played by Mr. Morphy, we have been much struck by the skill and judgment in which he invariably times the advance of the f-pawn after castling. So basically saying that this is a well-timed move. All of a sudden, it's clear that white is doing well. f5. really clamping down on that key square e6. Remember, pawn, knight, queen. That one's ours. And what's important, folks, and how you can use this in your games might be a different square, g6 or d6. But you own a key center square in your opponent's territory. If you're telling your chess coach, come on, I own the g3 square, it's in your territory. It's not as big a deal. But e6, you're taking over. Again, think of chess as a military strategy type game. You're taking over area, land in your opponent's territory, giving them less space to work with. Really nice. Rook back to f8. That kind of admits a mistake. Knight e6, you knew that move was coming. a4, not a very aggressive move, but believe it or not, the engine's top move. Stopping any counterplay with b5, and more importantly to me, kind of showing that Morphy had a little more positional class than people give him credit for. People think he's just the one-gear attacker with the miniatures every game, but a4 definitely understands the patience and kind of clamping down on key squares, like that move. Knight g4, and this knight, which has been stranded a bit, is actually going to find a good home. Queen e2, and knight e5. Okay, black has actually made some improvement. He has a good central knight, our knight a little deeper in the territory and better, but both pretty well placed. The problem is really the king here, and again, this kind of construction with the pawns is not healthy. This bishop really suffering, the queen suffering, no open files. One big difference is black cannot really get rid of our knight, whereas bishop g3, we can get rid of theirs. So an important distinction. Queen c8, and bishop just takes it. A nice decision about trading pieces. A good thing to ask is, remember all these pawns, kind of plugging the roads, not letting the bishop move too much, whereas the knight is the best black piece there is. You should ask yourself questions like, is my bishop better than their knight? You're trading, it's quote-unquote 3 for 3, but it might be that the bishop stands a little worse, like in this case. So a good trade for white, and you're kind of improving by getting rid of their best piece. Anything bad for your opponent is good for you, and vice versa. Rook f3, classic rook lift. Here, bishop d7, and after rook f3, Lowenthal writes here a nice sentence. The key move, rook f3, the key move to a combination of surprising merit, when it is remembered that it takes place in a game contested simultaneously with 7 other strong players, and all without sight of the board and men. Really nice prose there, but I just love this attack even more than the annotations. What are we threatening? For example, bishop takes knight would be answered with a very powerful move, rook takes h7. That's going to force checkmate. King takes is the only legal move, and queen h7 is checkmate. So rook h3 is threatening mate, capture, and then the queen slides over. So how to defend that? He plays h6, and Morphy plays queen d2. An excellent move. Threatening checkmate again. For example, if bishop takes that knight, the best piece is gone, but it doesn't matter. Checkmate. Pawn takes, queen takes. That's a classic checkmate. That's why you have to know those patterns. A rook sack like that is very easy for a strong player who's seen it many times, because the pattern recognition is there. And that's how you're able to stack tactics on top of tactics, right? Positional moves combined with the tactics, because the puzzle finishes like that are pretty easy. That's the easy part of chess, the puzzle rush moment. So anyway, king h7, that was the move played, guarding the h6 square. Queen takes bishop. That was a free piece. So we mentioned queen d2 threatened rook takes. That's a threat of checkmate here, but also rook and queen combined to threaten this bishop here. So double danger for black, and that's it. It cost him a minor piece. White is winning. Bishop d6, and here is where you see the true genius of Morphy. The game has been well played, I must say. But rook takes h6. What can you say? What do you say when you're sitting there and your opponent is blindfolded? Here's what Lowenthal had to say. The position deserves the student's best examination. That's you all. Mr. Morphy's play here is a wonderful exhibition of brilliancy and correctness. Yeah, what can you say? I mean, here, notice there was a pin along the 7th rank. So the only legal move is king takes. Again, you need to be looking for forcing moves. Morphy understood that. Another rook lift. And this move is literally checkmate. Our queen is completely hanging. Free queen. Great. Checkmate. Rook h3. This is the real game. King h5, giving you one extra square to run. Queen f7, check. King h4. Rook h3, the only legal move. And queen h5 is checkmate. That is guarded by the rook. Remember our old friend the knight guarding this square, and that is just checkmate. Wow. An incredibly precise game, I must say, starting even with f5. Here, grabbing a key square, turning that into an outpost, turning that into an attack, getting rid of your opponent's best piece, a great lesson. The rook lift, and the threats keep adding up. Threat of mate, threat of free piece. Free piece, we would have gone on to win this game anyway with an extra minor piece, 2 knights versus just a bishop. But rook takes h6 is just the cherry on top. An incredible combination. And I want to point out one last thing. The move queen f7 is a terrible mistake. Threatening checkmate. How easy that would be blindfolded to just do that move. But queen e8, and black is essentially equal in this game. Remember, now that we've sacrificed a rook, queen takes queen, for example, there's no other choice. Rook takes black is actually up in material here. The knight compensates, but a very interesting game, and that would have been an easy mistake to make. So the move order really matters. Rook d3, adding an extra piece, and it's just too much. Thank you all again. I hope this was a fun one. Morphy, and again, my real motto is you got to look at those old games to improve your games. I love the games of Morphy. Your game is going to look a lot more like this than it is going to look like Magnus versus Anand versus Geary versus Wesley. So you're just not going to understand those games. I hardly do as well. These games are great and easy to understand. I hope that helps everyone. Let's keep getting better together, and tell me any comments. We've been gathering a lot of momentum on the channel. It's really exciting. So anything in the comments or like, subscribe, really appreciate it. And we'll keep rolling with some great chess content. Thanks again.